Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Gaia, also known as Granny Gaia on TikTok, Instagram, and of course here on YouTube. In today's tutorial, I show you how to make this super cute raglan style mesh sweater. By raglan style, I mean it is worked top down, so we start at the neckline and we continue to add our rows and build up the sweater as we work our way down. The raglan style creates a seamless look as there is no sewing involved in this project. I love how versatile this sweater is. You can literally wear it on top of anything. You can wear it over a tube top like I am now, a tank top, a dress. It is so versatile in terms of styling. I also show you how to adjust this pattern to your liking. I show you how you can create an off-shoulder neckline or a narrow neckline. This pattern is also very customizable. You can make the sleeves as long or as short as you want. Same thing for the body part, you can make this sweater as long or as short as you want. This is a beginner-friendly project and very easy to make. It is also made to measure, so you can make this for any size. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can message me on Instagram with pictures to help explain what your issues are, and I will do my best to answer and help you out. Let's get into the tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'll be using this sport weight or number 2 weight yarn. I will have it tagged in the description below. By the way, this yarn is 100% cotton, and with this yarn I'll be using a 5mm hook. You can use any yarn and any hook you like, just make sure that the hook you're using is the corresponding size to the yarn you're using. For this project, I chose to use a bigger hook than what is recommended for my number 2 weight yarn because I want my project to be more flowy and airy. You'll also need some stitch markers, a needle and some scissors, and of course a measuring tape. If you are interested in this yarn spinner / storage box, I have it linked in the description box. You can use my code Gaia for 5% off. If you do plan on purchasing this, please use the link or use my code because I do get a small commission at no extra cost to you. And that just really helps me out so that I can keep making free tutorials for you guys. Okay, so before we begin, I'm just going to explain really quickly how we're going to construct this mesh sweater. So it is a raglan style construction, so that means we will start at the neckline and work our way down. So it'll be a top-down raglan style. When we start, we're going to start by making a chain that goes around our neck. You want to make sure that this chain is an odd number. Okay, so to start, we're going to make a slip knot. You can make a slip knot however you like. This is just how I like to make my slip knot. Okay. So like I said, chain an odd number of chains that fits comfortably around your neck. Now this also depends on how you want your neckline to fit. If you want a more wide neckline so that you can wear it off the shoulder, or if you want a more narrower neckline, it is completely up to you. Okay, so I've made a chain of 99 chains, and you just want to try this on. Make sure that you like how it fits. So I want mine to be able to wear it off the shoulder. So I made my neckline quite big. I'm just testing it to see how I like the neckline. This is what you should do too. Try it on, make sure you like how it fits. Okay, so I'm happy with my 99 chains and we will continue on with the pattern. So just for reference, I have folded my 99 chains in half and it measures around 14 inches long. So to continue, we are now going to join this chain so that we can start working on it in the round. To do that, you want to make sure that your chains are not twisted. So I'm just using my finger here to make sure that the chains are all following the same direction. This is really important because then your work will be twisted if you don't make sure that all the chains are facing the same direction. See here, it's twisted. You just want to turn the chains so that they all face the same direction. Okay, once you reach the end, I'm just going to flip this around like so. And I'm going to insert my hook into that very first chain we made, just picking up that loop. like so. And then we're going to slip stitch. So to slip stitch, you're just going to yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook, like so. And here we have connected our chain. To start working, I'm just going to start by chaining 3. So throughout the entire pattern, we are going to work the mesh stitch, and I'll show you exactly how to work it. We're going to start by chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this chain 3 will count as a double crochet stitch and a chain 1, okay? So to start the mesh stitch, I'm going to place a double crochet stitch into the next stitch after you skip 1. So we just made our stitch here, and we're going to skip this next stitch, and into this stitch we'll place a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into that 3rd stitch. Okay, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Okay, with the remaining 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. So that's a double crochet. After your double crochet, make a chain 1. And now we're going to place another double crochet into this stitch right here. So we'll skip the next stitch, and into the next stitch, we'll place a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into this stitch, and place a double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop. With 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. With the remaining 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops on your hook. Okay, we made a double crochet, and now we're going to chain 1. Okay, so you're always going to chain 1 after a double crochet. So again, we're going to skip this next stitch, and into this next stitch here, we're going to place a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into this next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. With 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. With the remaining 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And again, chain 1. Okay, so we repeat this. So skip the next stitch, and into the next stitch, place a double crochet. Followed by a chain 1. Okay, and then we repeat it. Skip 1 stitch, and in the next stitch, place a double crochet. Followed by a chain 1. Okay, so you're going to continue doing this all the way around until we reach the beginning here. Okay, so once you've made your last stitch in this first round, it should look something like this. Okay, so I've made my chain 1 after the double crochet as well. Make sure you make your chain 1. And so now we are going to slip stitch into this beginning chain 3 that we did, but we're going to slip stitch into the second chain that we made. So as you can see, this is our first chain, second chain, and third chain. We will be slip stitching into the second chain. Okay, so insert your hook into this chain, like so, and we're going to slip stitch. So yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. So that is round 1 complete. Okay, so once you have joined your first round, I'm just going to pull this up here, make a nice long loop so that it doesn't unravel when we're doing this part. So we're going to fold this in half, and this part where we left off here, this chain 2, is going to be our seam. So try to make this in the center. When you're folding it, try to center it as much as you can. And then you're going to take your measuring tape and just lay it against your work like this. So mine measures about 12 inches. When you are aligning this to your tape measure, make sure that this seam is right in the center. So since mine measures 12 inches, the half of 12 is 6. So make sure that the seam here is at the midpoint. For me, that's 6. So for example, if yours measures 14 inches long, then your midpoint would be 7, because 14 divided by 2 is 7. You're going to take your measurement, so mine measures 12, and you're going to divide it by 4. So for me, that's 12 divided by 4, which is 3. Now, if you get a decimal, you can round it up or round it down. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter. But for me, I got just the number 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, from this side, I'm going to mark where it is 3 inches, okay? So if you get the number 4.5, then you'll mark at the 4.5 mark here. For me, I got 3, so I'm going to mark here. It helps to use stitch markers of the same color, so I have 2 yellow and 2 orange. So I'm going to mark at the 3 inches mark. And when you're marking this, you want to mark where there is the double crochet stitch. So for me, I'm just going to mark this stitch right here. And then take the same color stitch marker and mark the other side as well. So for me, that's the stitch right here. Also, you guys, I'm so sorry for all the construction noises. Okay, now to mark the other side. So here I've marked at the 3 inches mark, and so we're going to do the same thing to this side. So I'm going to mark 3 inches from this side, which is right here at the 9-inch mark. So again, make sure you mark a double crochet stitch. Don't go and mark the chain 1 space. Okay, doing the same thing to the other side. Just like this. So these are just like rough marks. We're going to go ahead and count our stitches, make sure everything's even, and then we can carry on with the pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock these stitch markers so that I can count them without losing my stitch markers place. So what you want to do is I'm going to count how many stitches I have in between these 2 stitch markers. Okay, so I'm just going to count how many double crochets I have. Okay, so in between here and here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 double crochets in between these 2 stitch markers. Okay, so I should also have 11 double crochets in between these 2 yellow stitch markers as well. The idea is you want to have the same number of stitches in between these 2 stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so here I have 12. You also want to count how many stitches you have in between these stitch markers as well. So I'm going to count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I also want to have 12 in between here as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So at this point, you can move around these stitch markers to make sure that you have even numbers between all the sides. So you want to make sure that in between these yellow stitch markers and these orange stitch markers, you have the same stitch count. And you also want to make sure that in between this part here and this part here, you have the same number of stitches. So I'm just going to move some stitch markers around to make sure that I have the same number of stitches. So since this side has 1 more stitch than this side, and this side has 1 less stitch than this side, I'm going to move this stitch marker just 1 stitch over, and we'll see if I now have even number of stitches. So I'm going to count again. Again, I'm just counting the double crochets to make it easier. In between the yellow stitch markers, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I need 12 in between the orange stitch markers as well. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so these 2 sides are even now. Let's see if these 2 sides are even now as well. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now that we have an even number of stitches all the way around, we can continue with the pattern. To continue on to round 2, we're going to start with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this chain 3 will count as a double crochet and a chain 1. One thing very important to memorize is every time you start a new round, you have to turn your work, because if you don't turn your work, your seam will not be straight. So we want a straight seam, so make sure to turn your work at the beginning of every round. So for this mesh stitch pattern, we are going to place a double crochet into each double crochet from the previous round. So I'm going to insert my hook into this stitch right here. We're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that double crochet from the previous round. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. With 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. With the remaining 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So that is your double crochet. And then you're going to follow it with 1 chain. So you're going to continue this all the way around. You're going to place 1 double crochet followed by a chain 1 into each of these double crochets from the previous round. So my next stitch I'm going to go into is this one right here. You're going to yarn over and place a double crochet into that next stitch, followed by a chain 1. Okay, remember to always make a chain 1 after your double crochets. Okay, show you again. My next stitch is right here. Place a double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous round, followed by a chain 1. Okay, I'll show you again and then I'll leave you to it for round 2. So yarn over, insert your hook into this next double crochet stitch, make a double crochet and a chain 1, just like so. You're going to continue this all the way around, and I will meet you back again once we reach a stitch marker, because when we reach the stitch marker, this is where we make an increase. Okay, so I have reached a stitch marker, and when you reach a stitch marker, we will have to make an increase. To make an increase, you're going to place 1 double crochet into that stitch, followed by a chain 1, and in the same stitch we will place another double crochet. Okay, make sure you put it in the same stitch, and again followed by a chain 1. So in that stitch here we have 2 double crochets, which gives us an increase. Okay, so whenever we reach a stitch marker, this is what we're going to do. We're going to place an increased stitch. Okay, so to continue, you're going to place 1 double crochet into the next stitch, followed by a chain 1, and then again double crochet into the next stitch, followed by a chain 1. So continue this pattern all the way around, and I will meet you again once I reach another stitch marker, just so that I can show you how to do it one more time. Okay, so I have reached a stitch marker. Again, this means we have to place an increased stitch. So to do an increased stitch, you're going to place 1 double crochet, followed by a chain 1, and in the same stitch place another double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Okay, and that is our increased stitch. Then we can continue on with our mesh stitch pattern. So into this next stitch, place 1 double crochet, followed by a chain 1, and we repeat that again. So into the next stitch, place 1 double crochet, followed by a chain 1. So continue doing this all the way around, and I will meet you back at the end of the second row. Remember to place an increased stitch every time you reach a stitch marker. I also recommend that every time you finish making an increased stitch, you want to move your stitch marker into the increased stitch. So here you can see I have a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. I'm just going to mark right in between those 2 double crochets. So right in the middle of those 2 stitches is my increase stitch. When you move your stitch markers, it's just easier for you to spot where you have to make an increase in the next round. So that's why I recommend you move your stitch markers into the increase stitch after you finish making them. Okay, so I'm at the end of round 2. So at the end of every round, we are going to slip stitch into this beginning chain here. Remember, we did a starting chain of 3. You're going to slip stitch into the second chain you made. So that's 1 chain, 2 chains, and 3 chains. We're going to insert our hook into that second chain and make a slip stitch. So yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. Okay, so now you have joined your second round. So to begin round 3, you're going to start with a chain 3. And remember, you always need to turn your work at the beginning of every round. And then just like round 2, we're going to make a double crochet followed by a chain 1 into each of these double crochets from the previous round. Okay, so my next stitch I'll go into is this stitch right here. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that stitch, make a double crochet and a chain 1. Again, my next stitch is here, so I'll make a double crochet followed by a chain 1. Okay, again, next stitch is here, 1 double crochet and a chain 1. So you're going to continue doing this until you reach a stitch marker or an increased stitch. Okay, so here I have reached a stitch marker. What we're going to do when we reach the increased stitches is you're going to place 1 double crochet into this stitch right here. So I'm going to insert my hook right into this stitch and place a double crochet followed by a chain 1. And now into this increased stitch here. So in between these 2 double crochets where the stitch marker is, you're going to place a double crochet followed by a chain 1 and place 1 more double crochet into that same space followed by a chain 1. So I'm just going to move my stitch marker into this area right here because that is our increased stitch so that I know where to increase in the next round. So I'm just going to place it right in between those 2 stitches where we made the increase. And now to continue, our next stitch is right here. So we're going to place a double crochet right into that stitch. Chain 1. And we're going to continue the mesh stitch pattern. So here's my next stitch, place 1 double crochet followed by a chain 1, and then again next stitch is here, so 1 double crochet and 1 chain. Okay, continue doing this all the way around. I will meet you back again at another stitch marker, so I'll show you one more time how to approach the increased stitch. Okay, I have reached the increased stitch again. I've made my double crochet chain 1 into this stitch right here, and now I'm going to place my increased stitch into this space. So place 1 double crochet, chain 1, and another double crochet in the same space, followed by a chain 1. Okay, so that's our increased stitch. I'm going to continue by going into this next stitch right here, place 1 double crochet and a chain 1, and then into this next stitch, 1 double crochet and a chain 1. So continue doing this all the way around. Remember to place an increased stitch where your stitch markers are, and I will meet you back at the end of round 3. Okay, I have reached the end of round 3, so we're going to slip stitch into that second chain that we made in the very beginning. So insert my hook into this second chain right here and make a slip stitch, just like so. And then to start a new round, chain 3, turn your work, and you're just going to repeat exactly the same thing we did for round 3. So Keep repeating round 3. Just as a little reminder to move on from this, you're going to make your mesh stitches like normal until you reach your increased stitches or where your stitch markers are. Make an increased stitch and then continue doing normal mesh stitches, and then again when you reach your stitch marker or an increased stitch, you make an increased stitch. Continue all the way around until you reach the end. Once you reach the end, slip stitch into the second chain from the beginning chain that we started off with, and then to begin the next round, you repeat the same exact thing. Chain 3, turn your work, and do your mesh stitches. If you are confused, you can scroll back in the video to round 3. I will have it timestamped because you will follow the same exact steps that we did for round 3 for these rows. Okay, so I have it laid flat on my desk here, just to show you guys that if your project isn't laying flat like mine is, you can see it's kind of ruffling at the neckline here. That is completely normal, so don't worry if you see this. Okay, so you can see that when I try it on, the neckline lays flat. So if you try it on and it lays flat like this, then that's fine. Now, when we separate for the sleeves, you want to separate at the point where you're happy with how it fits. So if you want to make your sweater fit like how this red sweater fits me, you can find videos of me wearing this and see for yourself if you like the fits, but basically this one isn't as oversized as this white one I'm making. So if you don't want it to be so oversized, I would stop at this point and then I would make a chain to connect these two together. So the reason why I use the same color stitch marker is to make it easier for me when I'm joining. I know that I need to join these two yellow stitch marked corners together, and then I need to join these orange two stitch mark corners together. At this point, I have made a total of 10 rows, which measures about 5 inches. So you can stop here. You can stop making your rounds here and then separate for the sleeves, which I will show you how to do later on. There should be a timestamp if you've already reached this part and you're ready to separate for the sleeves. You can skip ahead over to the separating for the sleeves timestamp in the video. But if you're looking for something more oversized like I am, I'm just gonna keep going until this is big enough to my liking. So I will check back in with you and show you how it fits on me before we separate for the sleeves. And I'll tell you how long it measures and how many rows I did and all of that. So I have tried it on. At this point, I am happy with how it fits. I think it is oversized enough for me. So this is what it looks like. Here you can see this is our seam where we start and stop each round. Okay, so actually this will be our back panel here because you don't want the seam to be in front. You want to keep adding rounds and keep trying it on until you're happy with how it's fitting. So now I'm going to separate for the sleeves. So at this point it measures about 7.5 inches. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 rounds. So now I am at the separation round. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna continue making my mesh stitch all the way until I reach my stitch marker, and I will meet you back once I reach the stitch marker. Okay, so I have reached the stitch marker, and now I'm going to place 1 double crochet right in between that increased stitch there. So right in between these 2 double crochets where the stitch marker is, I'm going to place 1 double crochet. And now we're going to make a chain. Now this chain has to be an odd number. Okay, I'm just going to make a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now basically what this chain is, it's a kind of bridge that will help us connect this corner to the other stitch marked corner. Okay, so once you've made your chain, you're just going to extend that loop and put a stitch marker into that loose loop there, just so that your work doesn't unravel while you're trying this on. And basically what this chain is basically a connection to the other stitch marker. Now when you're joining this, make sure that the stitch marker you're joining it to is the same colored stitch marker. If you're happy with how it fits, like here, I think my chain of 5 is good. If you want your sleeve to fit tighter, you can make less chains, and if you want your sleeve to fit more loose, you can make more chains. Just make sure that this chain you make is an odd number. Okay, you can't really see all of my project here, but okay, this is what I'm working with. So you can see here we have this orange stitch marker that marks this corner right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna join this chain to the opposite corner with the same color stitch marker. Okay, so I'm gonna join these two corners together, and then I'm also gonna join these two yellow stitch marked corners together. And this will separate our sleeves for us. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're just gonna fold your work in half, basically. Make sure that your stitch markers meet like this. Again, make sure you are connecting the ones with the same color stitch marker. Then I'm just gonna remove this stitch marker here to continue from where I left off. So I made my 5 chains, and now we're gonna go to this opposite end here, and I'm gonna yarn over because we're gonna make a double crochet right in between these 2 double crochets here at this increase point. So where that orange stitch marker is. Okay, so yarn over, insert your hook right into that increase stitch, make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Okay, so now you have successfully connected the 2 corners together, and we can continue working around at the body part until we reach this other corner here, and then we will do the same thing again to join them. I will show you how to do this one more time. Okay, so to move on from this, I'm just going to slightly turn my work a little bit so that we can continue working on the body side. And we're basically just gonna continue the mesh stitch like we've been doing. So I made my chain 1, and now I'm gonna do a double crochet into the next stitch, which is right here. So yarn over and make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. And then again, my next stitch is right here. So I'm gonna make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. And again, next stitch is right here. So make a double crochet and a chain 1. So continue doing this all the way down until you reach your other corner with the stitch marker. Okay, I've reached the yellow stitch marker. So like we did for the other side, I'm just gonna place 1 double crochet right where the stitch marker is. So in between these 2 double crochets where the increase stitch is. Okay, right there, make 1 double crochet. And then you're gonna make the same number of chains you did for this side. So I made a total of 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you take the other corner, make sure it's folded the same way as this one, so you don't want your work to be twisted. And I'm going to make a double crochet right in between those 2 double crochets, right into that increase stitch where the yellow stitch marker is placed. Okay, so make a double crochet right in there, followed by a chain 1. So now you have connected the other corner, and again, I'm gonna work on this body side here until I reach the seam. So I'm just gonna turn my work a little bit here so we can continue working on the body side. So my next stitch will be right here. I'm gonna insert my hook into there and make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1, and then repeat it. So my next stitch is here, make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1, and then again, next stitch is right here, make a double crochet, and a chain 1. So continue doing this all the way until you get to the end of the round, and we will slip stitch into this beginning chain. Okay, so I have reached the end of our round. Just like every other round, I'm going to slip stitch into that second chain to close off this round. Okay, and that is done. So let me just show you what we've done so far. Now we have separated the body part here and the sleeves. So now we're going to keep working our rounds for the body part to make it as long as we want it to. Now this is completely up to you, however long or short you want your top to be. And then once we finish building up our rounds for the body part, I will show you how to add to your sleeves. To continue on the body part, just like normal, I'm going to start with a chain 3, turn my work, and again I'm just going to continue making my mesh stitches until I reach this part right here, and I will show you how to tackle this chain. Okay, so I have reached this chain part and I will show you how we move on from here. So I've made my last stitch into here. I need to make another mesh stitch right into here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. And now we're just going to repeat the mesh stitch, just like normal. Okay, so this is the stitch we just worked into. And now you can see this is my next stitch. We're gonna skip this next stitch, and into this next stitch, we're gonna place a double crochet. So just like how we made this mesh stitch at the beginning. Okay, so go right into there and make a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Okay, and again, skip this stitch, and into the next stitch, we'll place our double crochet. Followed by a chain 1. Okay, and then here you can see this is our next stitch. We're going to skip that, and into this stitch right here, we're going to place a double crochet. Go right into there, and a chain 1. Okay, so now we continue making our mesh stitch just like normal. My next stitch is in here. So I'm going to place a double crochet, followed by a chain 1, and then again my next stitch is right here. So 1 double crochet and a chain 1. So continue doing this until you reach the other chain, and again I will show you how to tackle it. Okay, meet you back here. Okay, so I'm here at this chain connection part. So just like we did the other side, I'm gonna put another stitch right in here. So that's 1 double crochet followed by a chain 1. And now for this chain part, we're going to skip this stitch, and then into the next stitch we'll place a double crochet. Followed by a chain 1. And then again, skipping this stitch right here, and into the next stitch, we're going to place a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. And then again, skip this stitch right here, and into this next stitch, we'll place a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Chain 1, just like so. And then you can continue making your mesh stitches like normal. Okay, so continue making your mesh stitch, and I will meet you at this seam. Okay, I'm at the seam, and just like any other round, I'm just going to slip stitch into the second chain that we made in the beginning, just like so. So now what you will do is you're just going to continue working your rounds, continue making more and more rounds, as many rounds as you need for it to reach your desired length for your top. Okay, so we're just gonna keep making rounds on the body here. When you reach this part, it'll just be the regular mesh stitch. You won't have to deal with this chain anymore. And from now on, you won't have to make any more increased stitches. So just go along your way making regular mesh stitches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue making as many rounds as I need to, and I will be back to show you how we can move on to the sleeves. I have reached the point where I'm happy with the length. Measuring from the neckline to my last row, it's about 21 inches long. And Counting from the neckline to the last row, I have a total of 40 rows of the mesh stitch. Okay, so I've just tried it on to show you guys exactly how long it is once it's on. So this is the point where I'm stopping, and you just make as many rows as you need to for it to reach the length that you want. So this is completely up to you. If you want it cropped, if you want it this length, make it as long as you need to. And then once you're done, I'm going to show you how to finish off this body part. Okay, so after you've finished your last round, so I've slip stitched into that beginning chain 2 there, and so now I'm just going to make 2 rounds of single crochet just to sort of give this a nice clean edge. So to start, I'm just going to start off by chaining 1, and then I'm going to put 1 single crochet into each double crochet from the previous round. Okay, so I'm going to place my first one right here, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop with 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops like that. So now this is a single crochet, so that's your first single crochet. I recommend you mark this very first stitch because it can be a little bit hard to see once you get to the end of it, to the end of the round, because we will need to slip stitch back into this single crochet at the very end. So just marking it makes it easier. Okay, so continue placing 1 single crochet into every double crochet stitch. So here's my next double crochet right here. I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop with 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. It's another single crochet. Again, this is my next stitch right here. Insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop with 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, so again, my next stitch is right here, insert my hook, pull up a loop with 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, so place 1 single crochet into each double crochet from the previous round, and I will meet you back again once you get to the end of your round. Now, if you are doing this and your work is starting to bunch up, that means your tension is too tight. So make sure when you're doing these 2 rows that your tension is on the looser side. So I have made my last single crochet into this double crochet stitch right here, and so now I'm just going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet we made. So taking off my stitch marker, and then we're going to insert our hook into that very first single crochet and yarn over, make a slip stitch, so pull through all the loops on your hook just like so. And now we're going to make 1 more round of single crochets into every single stitch. So to start, chain 1, and then I'm just going to place 1 single crochet into every stitch. So my first stitch is right here, so insert your hook into that first stitch and make a single crochet. Again, I like to mark the very first stitch just to make things easier for myself when we join the round. Okay, and into each stitch, place 1 single crochet. Okay, so just like that, I'm going to meet you at the end and I will show you how to fasten off. And once you've made it to the end, you're just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet. Just inserting my hook into that very first single crochet stitch and making a slip stitch, just like so. Now to finish off, you can chain 1 and cut off your yarn and pull to tighten, and your body part is finished. So now I will show you how to add the sleeves. Okay, so here I have one of my sleeves, and then you can see these stitch markers are from when we separated the sleeves. So I'm just going to take these off because we don't need these anymore. We're going to join our yarn into this round right here. I'm going to choose one of these stitches to join my yarn into. You can actually choose any stitch you like around here, but I just feel that choosing one of these stitches will make this seam harder to see when it's under the arm. I'm just going to pick this stitch right here. So I'm just going to insert my hook into this stitch. Okay, then grab your yarn onto your hook and pull it through. Then you're going to make a knot to secure the yarn. Then insert your hook back into that same spot. Now we can start crocheting. So to start a round of the sleeves, I'm just gonna yarn over and pull up a loop, okay? And then I'm gonna start by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to work into these stitches, making the mesh stitch. Now you can see here that there's no clear stitches we can work into because these are the sides of the stitches. So we're just going to map this out. So, okay, my next stitch is gonna go right into here. We're gonna follow these lines and create the mesh stitch. Okay, so I'm gonna insert my hook right into this area right here. So place a double crochet into that area, followed by a chain 1. So the next place I'm going to place my mesh stitch is going to be around here, somewhere in this area. Since there's no clear stitches for us to work into, it doesn't really matter where you put your stitch into. You just kind of want to make it look evenly spaced out. So I'm just going to place my hook into this area. So place a double crochet into here, followed by a chain 1. And now you can see that there are stitches for us to work into now, so it'll be a lot easier to place our mesh stitches. So you'll see that this is our next stitch here, but I'm gonna skip this stitch just because it's very close to where I just placed my stitch. So I don't want them to be too close, so I'm just gonna skip that one and go straight into this next stitch right here. So I'm gonna place a double crochet into that stitch, followed by a chain 1. And now we just continue our mesh stitch like normal. So here's my next stitch. Place 1 double crochet and a chain 1. Okay, and then my next stitch is here. So 1 double crochet and 1 chain. Again, next stitch is here, 1 double crochet and 1 chain. Okay, so continue this all the way around. And I will meet you back closer to the beginning here, and I'll show you how to tackle this area again where there are no clear stitches. Okay, so I have reached this area here where there's no clear stitches. We want to mimic what we did on the other side there. So if you guys remember, I had a stitch in this area right here and I skipped this stitch because it was too close. So that's what I'm gonna do on this side as well. So I'm just gonna go into this area right here and I'm going to skip this stitch, okay? So placing a double crochet followed by a chain 1 into that area. And then now here we have no clear stitches, we're working onto the sides. So I'm just going to place the stitch into this area right here. I'm going to try to find a little space here to put my hook. Okay, double crochet, chain 1. And then now here we have the chain. So same situation here. There is a stitch I can work into right here, but that's too close to the stitch I just put down here. So I'm gonna skip this stitch and I'm gonna move on to this next stitch right here. So I'm gonna place a double crochet right into this stitch or this chain, followed by a chain 1. Okay, and that should be your last stitch of the first round of the sleeve. Then we can slip stitch into this second chain here to join the round, just like so. So that's round 1 of the sleeve done. For round 2 and for the remaining rounds of the sleeve, you're going to start with a chain 3. And remember to turn your work at the beginning of every round to make sure we have a straight seam. And we're going to continue doing the mesh stitch just like normal, like we've been doing for the rest of this pattern. Okay, so my next stitch is right here. I'm going to place a double crochet followed by a chain 1. And then my next stitch is here. So placing 1 double crochet followed by a chain 1. Okay. Next stitch is right here, 1 double crochet and 1 chain. So continue doing this all the way around, and I will meet you back again just to remind you how you can join your round. Okay, I've come up to the end of the second round of our sleeve, and like usual, we're going to slip stitch into that second chain from the beginning chain we made. Just like so. And so basically from now on, you're just going to continue repeating round 2 of the sleeve. So continue making mesh stitch rounds until you're happy with the length of your sleeve. Okay, so just a reminder, to start another row, we chain 3, turn our work, and continue on with our mesh stitch. Okay, so just continue making your rounds, keep adding more and more rounds until you're happy with the length, and I will again come back to show you how to finish off the sleeve. So just wanted to show you guys what my sleeve looks like. So I think I am about done adding rows to my sleeve. This is how long I want it. Of course, you can even make this short sleeve. You can make it as long as you want, just like the body part. So once you are happy with the length, you can stop making your mesh rows, and then I'm going to show you how we can finish off the sleeves. Okay, so just for reference, I have a total of 40 rows of the mesh stitch, counting from the neckline here where we started all the way to the end right here, which it also, in inches, it measures about 23 inches long. Okay, so to finish off your sleeve, just like we did for the body part, I'm just going to chain 1. And now I'm going to make a single crochet into each double crochet from the round below. Okay, so my first stitch I will place right here, right in the beginning. So just 1 single crochet, like so. And again, I like to mark the very first stitch. And then my next double crochet is right here. So I'm going to insert my hook right into that double crochet stitch and make a single crochet. Again, try to keep your tension on the looser side when you're doing these single crochets. Okay, next stitch is right here, single crochet. Okay, so just like you did for the body part, we're going to do the same thing to our sleeves, and I will meet you back again once I finish this row. Okay, so I've reached the end. I'm now just going to slip stitch into that very first stitch we made, right into that first stitch, and slip stitch, just like so. Now to start the second row, chain 1, and we're going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so my first stitch being right here, place 1 single crochet into each stitch. Again, I recommend marking that very first stitch so it makes it easier for you to know which stitch to slip stitch into when you reach the end. But with that being said, I will meet you at the end of this round. I have come up to the end of my row, so I'm just going to slip stitch right into that first single crochet we made, like so, and then I'm going to chain 1, then we can cut off our yarn because we are done with our sleeve. Pull to tighten, and your sleeve is done. So now what you have to do is the exact same thing that you did for this sleeve to the other side. So just as a little reminder, what you're going to do is you're going to come over to the other side, you're going to join your yarn. I recommend this area. Then you'll make your rounds of the mesh stitch, keep adding your rounds, make sure you have the same number of rows or rounds as you do on this side so that they are even. And then you will make your 2 rounds of single crochet like we just did at the very end. And then you are done with the sleeves. After the sleeves, the very final step is to just add 2 rounds of single crochet around the neckline, just to kind of clean up the edges a little bit, give it more of a neater look. You don't have to do this, but I recommend it. It helps prevent the neckline from stretching out over time as well. So that is going to be the next thing I show you how to do. For the finishing of the neckline, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to add our yarn. Now, I personally like adding my yarn to the sides here where it's less visible to the eye when you're wearing it, because there will be a slight seam, but very, very little, just like our seam on our sleeves here. It's very, very small, you can barely see it. So really you could join your yarn anywhere at the neckline, but I'm just gonna pick this area right here, add your yarn into one of these chains here. So I'm just gonna pick this one, insert my hook, then grab your yarn and pull it through. And then I'm just going to tie a knot to secure the yarn in place. Take your hook and insert it back into that same space. And then now you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, like so, and then just chain one. Okay, so just like how we did for the sleeves, we're going to place one single crochet into each of these double crochet stitches, okay? Now something I want to mention is when we add these rounds of single crochet, it will kind of tighten up our neckline. So that will mean that your neckline will probably become a little bit smaller. So if you don't want it to get smaller, I recommend you place 2 single crochets instead of 1 single crochet into each stitch. That way you won't have a smaller neckline. First stitch is going to go right in here where we first started off. So 1 single crochet. Again, I recommend marking this very first stitch to make it easier for you. Okay, next stitch is right here. So insert my hook and make a single crochet. Again, you want to keep your tension loose. Okay, next stitch is right here. Insert my hook and place a single crochet. Next stitch is right here. 1 single crochet. And my next stitch is right here. Okay, so you're going to continue doing that all the way around, and we'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I've made it to the end, made my last single crochet in here, and now we're going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet we made. Just like so. And now to start the second round of single crochets, chain 1 and place 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so I will meet you back at the end when we finish our neckline. Okay, once you've made your last single crochet, like normal, slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round, like so, then chain 1 and you can cut off your yarn. Pull to tighten and you are done with your sweater. Now the only thing left to do is to weave in your ends. You have made it to the end of the tutorial. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!